Welcome back to Indiana Joseph and the Temple of Corn. Thanks, Jason. Welcome back to Motorsport 101. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 459 of Motorsport 101. I am your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison, and I have a delightful, nutritious meal for all of us in this server listening along to this podcast as we record it.
Is it corn?
It's corn. How did you know? Honestly. It's glory to the corn, the glorious corn that is IndyCar's doubleheader at Iowa. Now we've added Carrie Underwood and Kenny Chesney. They didn't mention this at all during the broadcast over the weekend.
You forgot about Ed Sheeran. We've got to talk about Ed Sheeran.
He waved the green flag and everything. It was lovely. I love that Lee Diffie was like, he's been following IndyCar for ages. He's actually just a big F1 fan, you know, but it's fine. He's one of us now. We're claiming him.
And we also forgot Zach Brown. Not that one. The musician Zach Brown.
The Zach Brown Band, of course. I did challenge my Discord to every time that Lee Diffie was going to mention Kenny Chesney, Carrie Underwood, the Zach Brown Band, or Ed Sheeran over the course of Iowa to take a drink, there were 14 fatalities. Well done, everybody.
These were great sacrifices made in the name of Penske perfection.
Indeed, because guess what, folks? Josef Newgarden did something that only two other men in IndyCar history have ever done, and that is take a doubleheader sweep. He won both 250 lap races in Iowa, and all of a sudden, we might have only one man left that could reasonably even mount half a challenge on Alex Palou, who, if you've ever seen a cold open from The Office, I'll mention one a little bit later, in regards to what happened at the end of race 2. We'll get to that in a minute. But with me as ever, of course, is Mr. RJ O'Connell. Hello, sir.
It's another one of these, huh?
It's another one of these. You should be delighted right now.
For 3 consecutive years, it has always been a matter of Josef Newgarden kicking out at 2.9.5, making the big baby face comeback. He's hitting all of his signature ropes. He's hitting shit off the top ropes. And the last 3 years, he's been pinned.
You know what he is right now? He is that epic Cesaro comeback in the WWE. He just takes out everybody via elbows, flying presses, and kicks, and still ends up losing. The greatest hot tag ever seen. But
it's gonna be another one of these. But
it's gonna be one of them, isn't it?
Unlike last year, everything held together. Joseph finished the job.
He did. Gloriously and dominantly, I must say. Zoe says, and abs. Don't forget those abs. Yes, of course, Zoe. We will not forget the eye material to make all of us jealous, because we all know that Josef Newgarden is basically Ken. And the way this season's gone, Alex Palou is basically Oppenheimer. Anyway, also joining us on this week's edition is RJ O'Connell. How's it going, RJ?
Thank you for introducing me again. Hello, I'm RJ O'Connell, and joining me is RJ O'Connell.
300 shows together, and I think that's the first time I've ever introduced someone twice by accident. That's a first for me.
My mother, bless her heart.
RJ. He's RJ. I'm RJ. Is there any other RJs I need to know about?
Well, one of you can be Rory, and another one of you can be James. Hi, Cam.
There you go. Hi, Cam. How's it going?
Well, as my new identity of RJ O'Connell, I pledge to put almost as much effort into coverage of Japanese motorsport as the previous RJ O'Connell. So I love it too.
Get ready to learn Nihongo, buddy.
Ni hao.
Get ready to learn waking up for Super GT, buddy. That's my big one this year.
Ohio gozaimasu. Ohio gozaimasu.
No, just enjoying my continued pick for the title, climbing up like Frieza after the Spirit Bomb, going, by the way, not dead. K thanks die. Because Alex Palou turned a pair of okay races into a 7th and a 3rd.
An 8th and a 3rd. He matched his worst finish of the season. It was 8th. Wow.
And as Zoe said, this was the pair of races he was dreading. And he still had the audacity to have his average finish fall to a meager 3.5 on the year.
True.
Well, and it doesn't have a patch on the average favorite finish of the guy who's doing the same thing to F1 right now. Because, dear God.
Also, fun fact, we didn't mention this during our F1 show, but before we mention it here real quick, Max Verstappen's average finish this year, 1.18.
What the hell?
1.18.
That is the best combination of elite driver, elite team, elite vehicle, all in one together. I mean, this was another
on short ovals.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about Josef Newgarden's pair of wins. We'll talk about another potentially sketchy finish to the end of race 2, because IndyCar can't help themselves sometimes. And we got to talk about ovals in general. Do we need more ovals? I think the answer to this one is obvious. I think we do, but we'll talk a little bit about that over the course of the next 40 minutes or so. You could find us real quick. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101 if you want to find our personal.
That's the name it's been, and it always will be.
Motorsport_101, Dre_WTF1, RJ O'Connell, and RJ O'Connell.
See Buckley 917.
Of course, you can check all of our thoughts out on the website as well, motorsport101.com. For all of our episodes are on there, as well as extra written stuff by yours truly. If you want to have my mid-season thoughts on Formula One, that's all out in full. That was over 6,000 words. I stretched myself thin putting that up, but it was fun. So do check that out if you haven't already. I might still do one for MotoGP before we get going again next week. I'll have to wait and see how I feel for time, but it is precious. But by the time this episode goes out, I've also had all my DRR thoughts on Iowa as well, because there's some stuff to talk about from there as well that I wanted to address. All of that on the website, of course, and if you really like us, you can back us financially on Patreon. Patreon.com/motorsport101. $5 gets you early access to all of our shows. $10 gets you into the supporters club of our Discord server where you can listen to these episodes live as they're being recorded. Thank you very much for anyone that's tuning in and watching along with us as ever. Gents, should we do this? Should we talk about Iowa's doubleheader and glory to the corn?
Death, taxes. Josef Newgarden obliterates both Iowa 250s. He made history as just the third driver ever to win 5 consecutive oval races, joining A.J. Foyt and Al Unser Sr., dating back to the end of last season. Combined, Josef Newgarden, by himself, led 341 of the 500 total laps. Will Power and Scott McLaughlin added that total, which meant that Team Penske, as an enterprise, combined to lead 492 out of 500 laps this weekend. And Josef Newgarden, with this victory, only the third time in history since IndyCar Series started doing these doubleheader weekends, first on street courses and some on ovals, that anyone has swept both races a weekend. With those 2 wins, Josef Newgarden reduced Alex Palou's title lead down to 80 points with 5 races left. Oh, he's doing it again. Dre, surely this title race can't still be on, can it?
Well, as Zoe mentioned in the chat, I've got to mention this as a side note real quick. I love that Will Power absolutely destroyed the field in qualifying by over a mile an hour on both his laps, and Will was pissed off at how average his laps felt. I love Will Power. May he never change. What a guy. If anyone's ever seen that episode of The U.S. Office, and I can't remember the name's character because I've not watched the show regularly, but the scene where the guy's in the nightclub and he looks behind him and he goes, "Ah, fuck!" and sees Alex Palou when he was third in race 2.
Dwight?
That's the one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where Dwight looks behind him and goes, "Oh fuck," and then sees Alex Palou there because Palou had just finished third. You can literally hear, if you listen to the post-race broadcast on race 2, Josef shake Palou's hand and says, "You weren't supposed to be here."
It's like the last time I had a feeling that was after Russia 21, when after all the chaos and Lando went off, Lewis comes home for the win.
His
Max
100th win.
His 100th Formula One Grand Prix victory. Max started near as enough dead last from an engine penalty. He finished second.
Yeah.
And Lewis just looks over and goes, "What do I have to do? I can't get away from this guy."
Yeah.
It makes it all the
That's
more
how this
pressing.
felt.
Yeah. To put it in this context, both these Iowa races were just your classic blistering pace short oval races where we had a long green flag runs, and with the pace of the Penske cars in and out of traffic, Alex Palou got lapped in both races, and he got lapped twice in race 2. He did get some help from wave arounds.
Yeah, and Palou got waved around both times, got back on the lead lap, and then took advantage of who was slow off the finals up besides McLaughlin. There was one of them. It was Ericsson, wasn't it?
Rosenquist. It was Rosenquist who was looking
came
like
out of
tires.
nowhere.
Yeah, the tire fall off was
Insane.
it was worse than the 2013 F1 Pirellis. It was unbelievable.
When you combined Iowa's age surface with the sheer amount of downforce and load that these cars are putting on the tires, and plus it's a hot midsummer afternoon in Iowa.
I think race two was way hotter than race 1 temperature-wise.
It was pointed out that Indy Next, who ran their race at night, they're lighter cars, they don't put as much stretch on the tire. There were some people in the IndyCar paddock that saying, yeah, if you put us against the Indy Next guys, they would probably be kicking our ass by the end of the stint.
Yeah, they were about 15 miles per hour quicker than the IndyCar, than the full-fat Indy cars by the end of the stint. It was like 155 to like 140 average.
Yeah, like it was wild. Credit to Chris DeHardy for putting that out on our Discord server. It was well worth a mention because the exact quote I remember was, if it was a 50-lap race in Iowa, the Indy Next car would likely win. And when we saw the difference in tire life, if you ever actually watched the Indy Next race, Christian Rasmussen was dominating the first part of that race. There was a late caution right at the end, and with literally 2 laps to go, Jacob Axel was reining him in at a rate of about 0.8 of a second a lap and nearly beat Rasmussen over the line. If the race was 300 yards longer, Rasmussen probably loses because he had put so much of his tyre down in the first half of that race, where at one point he looked like he could lap the field. The drop-off was so extreme, he almost lost the win altogether. Yeah, Abel was 0.4 behind over the line. Thanks, Jason, for filling us in on that one. That's how wild the Iowa tire drop-off was. And for Josef Newgarden, it just didn't fucking matter. He was just that good.
Yeah, I'm going to be real with you, Trey.
Go on.
I didn't watch the first race.
I don't blame you.
I saw qualifying. I saw it was a Penske lock, and I'm like, I have better things to do with my afternoon. Because I just knew.
People forget that, IndyCar uses the same chassis, so what's really the difference? It's the damper package. It's the way they massage the suspensions. And ain't nobody doing it like Penske, not in this discipline of track.
Penske's short oval game has been near as enough unmatched for about as long as I can remember.
I mean, give credit to, some of the Ganassi guys, like Pat O'Ward and Felix Orza, just for even being in the discussion for leading a couple laps, brief sequence up pit cycles, or hanging around in the top 5, not getting lapped.
I was begging for someone at the end of race 2, and we'll get to why it didn't happen. I was begging for someone to pit and be like, "You have the opportunity to have 8 laps of the funniest shit you've ever seen."
I imagine. I mean, talking about the tire race was the original question that RJ posed. I mean, Newgarden's running out of time here rapidly, and as RJ, and this is a man. He's a big Newgarden fan. He's seen this story before. Newgarden makes a late charge to just barely finish in second. Like, am I right in saying RJ 3-time reigning runner-up in IndyCar now?
That is right. He has finished runner-up in the standings the last 3 years in a row.
And now he's got 39 points on Dixon, so there's a good chance he's going to finish second again this year.
I want to say
must be getting real sick of this shit.
well, that's just it. Is like, I just don't look. We have one more oval,
Gateway in August.
Relatively speaking, short oval. Josef Newgarden, quite cracked at ovals. Penske,
probably wins.
Quite cracked at ovals. But I just don't see how he can chip enough points out of Palou, because Palou just isn't dropping points.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, Palou was lapped in both races. He was lapped twice in race 2. He came back to finish 8th and 3rd. It still blows my mind to think that somebody's worst finish of the season in a championship like this could still be 8th place. So after the first Gateway race of the doubleheader in 2020, Josef Newgarden sat 117 points behind Scott Dixon with 6 races left. He finished 16 points behind. He gained 101 points in the last 6 races, and it was not enough. We get back to 2023. Going into this weekend, Christian Lundgaard has won in Toronto. Alex Palou still leads the standings by a very funny margin of 117 points over Scott Dixon. Newgarden is 126 back. Palou's lead is down to 80.
With
He's
5
already
rounds of time.
going to win.
I mean, I said in the notes, and I'll say it again here. Josef needs to win, for me, at least 3 out of the last 5.
I don't think it's even in his control. The only way that I see him getting back within like any reasonable distance of this is if not only if Newgarden just like top 5s every other race, wins like 2 out of 5. He basically needs Alex Palou to retire from a race or finish several laps down.
It's not happening.
No, not.
The only place I could see it happening is, ironically, at the funniest Grand Prix, at the world's largest outdoor bachelor party / pedal tavern in Nashville, Tennessee. But then again, that could happen to anybody.
Yeah, we have 5 rounds to go. We have Nashville, the second Indy Road Course race, the Gallagher Grand Prix on August 12th, Gateway on the 27th, Portland September 5th. It's a triple header to close out the year. So it's Portland, so it's Gateway, Portland, and then Laguna Seca to close out the year. We have, so in other words, 3 road courses, 1 street track, and 1 oval. And Palou has been virtually unstoppable in 4 of the 5 races left in terms of format.
And last year, Alex Palou broke this field like a Kit Kat bar at Laguna Seca.
Won by 30 seconds.
Yeah, and got himself a nice new contract extension to come along with it.
And let's not forget, the first Indy Road Course race, he absolutely destroyed the field there too. Bullied Christian Lundgaard off sequence.
It's going to take Palou retiring, and even then, like, if Palou just undoes that damage with another win, if Palou gets another race win, it's realistically out of everyone's hands.
Yeah, I agree with Jason in the chat. Says if Palou wins in Nashville, the party is over. I agree. I think
you're just not going to chip enough points out of him.
I think one more win for Palou absolutely seals the deal for me. Like, 80 is still slightly vulnerable because a point swing in IndyCar could be as much as 48. So one DNF and Joseph's back in the race. But
1 DNF for Josef, and it's curtains.
It's over.
And that's just it. Is that Nashville shows no quarter to anyone.
No.
Yeah. And the last time we went to a sketchy street track with barely any history, how was Palou kind of comfortably won that and let everybody else have their problems?
And it would take Palou retiring and Josef winning together to punch that big enough hole into his title lead. And I just don't see it happening because Palou is too controlled. He's too measured.
I said it before. I think Joseph needs 3 out of 5 minimum to even think about a comeback here. And he's got to hope Palou slips up somewhere.
And the road course form for Penske just hasn't been there.
No, it hasn't been. I think they've actually sacrificed a degree of their own street course pace all year to make themselves better at the 500, and for that part, it's worked. But unfortunately, I don't know why you're leaning so much of your resources, up besides 500, towards a discipline where there's only 5 races all year in terms of ovals, and only 2 super speedways.
Well, it didn't exactly stop Palou at the 500 now, did it? Because the thing that stopped him at Palou was Arenas VK to the side pod.
Exactly. So
it's wild.
It's wild.
As we wrap this up, right, I want to go over something here, too. So Scott Dixon leads all active drivers with 24 oval victories over the course of a 23-year career. Elio Castroneves has been racing it since 1998 in part and full. He has 18 career oval wins. Do you know who's third on the active list right now with 15?
Josef Newgarden.
I think somebody tweeted me on Sunday that he's won 10 of the short track oval races he's ever entered in IndyCar now, Joseph. Which
he's tied Rick Rick Mears on the all-time wins list.
Rick Mears!
I want to leave it
a racing god.
I want to leave it at there. Race 2 had a bit of a strange finish. Ryan Hunter-Reay spins out. That brings out a yellow. IndyCar goes to what it calls its abandonment procedures protocol, where they basically close off the pits so nobody can go down the pits to take tires. They do clean up the car. They do clean up the wreck for Hunter-Reay to ensure, and it's clean enough to go racing with 3 laps left to go. Drivers were largely cool with it, but Scott McLaughlin said, I have no tires left. Scott McLaughlin did salvage a decent finish out of it.
I'm stunned they didn't give him an emergency service, given he was a lap ahead of the rest of the field and would have finished 5th at worst either way.
Yeah.
I'm stunned that they didn't just give him an emergency service and put him at the back of the field. I don't understand that personally.
Yeah,
but,
what'd y'all make of this? Because I understand that it was very confusing to just have all the protocols being run through at once when not everybody is up to speed on them.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm glad the drivers were informed and were cool with it. That's fine, I got no problem with that, but we as fans were not informed of this. That does not help from a communication and broadcasting standpoint, that the whole idea of, okay, we're going to shut the pits off if there's a yellow with 10 laps to go.
Yeah.
Second of all, and I've said it before on this show, and I'm going to keep beating this drum, I don't like the fact that this series bends over backwards to ensure a finish under green.
This wasn't really bending over backwards. I didn't see the decision to go back to green with 3 to go to be as bad as a lot of the calls at the Indianapolis 500.
It's fine. And look, if this worked out fine, right? I'm not saying I've got this was nowhere near as sketchy as Indianapolis was. I'm not arguing that for a moment. The issue, the sketchiest thing I had about this weekend was the inconsistency on pulling a yellow when a car checked into the wall.
Yeah, because that
was an issue.
In race 2 alone, we had Canapino not actually hit the wall. He just got up out of the groove, and they threw a caution for it.
He brushed the wall, but he was running slowly in front of other drivers. I didn't have a problem with that, but then someone else brushes the wall, and they don't throw the yellow. I'm with you.
No. But even better, we had Stingray Robb, who, by the way, Dale Coyne are a mess and were rightfully disqualified from the race due to this unsafe release.
Yeah, this was not.
They sent him out without a wheel nut on the left rear tire, kept him going, and then IndyCar took forever to throw a caution while there was a wheel on the active racing surface.
Yeah,
and people were having to drive around it and dodge it.
There was a good 10 to 15 seconds between the live broadcast pictures of their tyre being unattached to Stingray Robb's car and the caution coming out. That is completely unacceptable.
While they were ultra quick on the pole for anyone going up out of the groove and going slowly.
Weird.
Yeah, I had a problem
because in race 1 they weren't throwing cautions for that. That's the problem that I had. In race 1, Sato brushed the wall. No caution. So what are we doing here? Like, I find it confusing at how race control gets down. Like, Stinger Rob getting DQ'd, I had no problem with, but the fact that it took them so long to pull out a caution, I don't understand it. And
on another note, if I had a nickel for every time that a struggling rookie in the IndyCar series was effectively disqualified, I would have 2 nickels. Because Benjamin Peterson, who, again, let's not forget, was the quickest rookie in the history of the Indianapolis 500, was parked for not maintaining minimum speed during the race.
He's outside of 105%, I believe it was.
I haven't seen anybody get parked like that during an oval race since fucking John Alesi and Simona in 2012.
And we know why that happened. What? Do we know how many laps he was down? Because it was something insane.
It was something like 80.
He was a few dozen laps down at minimum.
I think it was
Floyd racing. What happened?
Yeah, like according to Jason, 22. I was talking about Colton Herta getting parked during the 500 last year for his car being too slow. That's another. I was going to mention Colton Herta getting parked, but I'm pretty sure Benjamin Peterson was several dozen laps down when he was finally parked by race control. Again, I loved it. In fact, it got up to like 80 odd laps first, and then they parked him. I was like, well, okay, 71, 72, nah, it's fine. Let him go. 80 plus, yeah, park him. That's too many.
Good God.
Race control
how do you
is
manage
weird.
That?
Like, race control is weird. This race weekend was weird. Look, first and foremost, if you're going to have a green flag finish like this one, tell the audience nearer the time if it's going to be a matter of, no pits being open with 10 laps before the green. Fine. Okay, cool. Tell your audience. That's important. Like, they mentioned it during the Indy Next race as well, so I had a feeling that might have come up. But how many people are watching the Indy Next race? Like
5, and it's all of us in our server.
That was literally us watching it on Sky Sports Mix. Not even Sky Sports F1, the backup Sky Sports channel.
Well, you can add a few. You can add a few more just to see everybody, just to see like
UK time.
all the British people staying up to watch Jamie Chadwick claw and scratch and grind for a best finish of
Trey,
10th this season.
I have the number.
Go on.
It was 57.
Oh,
what in the world happened?
Almost one quarter distance.
What in the world happened to the team that nearly won the Indianapolis 500 on merit? I don't know.
Because Frucci was terrible as well, and he's normally really good at ovals.
He was 5 laps down.
I think it just goes to illustrate that not every oval is the same. Like, obviously, Iowa's much shorter than Indianapolis, and yes, they're both flat, but it's a whole different challenge altogether. I don't know, man. It's just strange. I didn't have that much of a problem with the finish, but I do think that with some tweaking of the way that they just call it a quick yellow instead of abandonment of procedures, I think that would turn a lot of people around on it. And
saying publicly that you're abandoning your usual procedure is never a good look. Not much good comes from that. Like, it's bad optics. I know, again, if it worked out fine, and to be fair, if they wanted a dramatic finish, they didn't even get that because Newgarden was still untouchable at the front of the field. Yeah. Anyway,
nobody could come into the pits to to make a 3-lap mad dash on a new set of tires. Which I
was hoping so much. Like, Palou has the chance to pit, go to the back of the line, and do the funniest thing in the world for 3 laps. Which is
the funniest thing, because I genuinely thought, given IndyCar and its bloodlust for entertainment, it would have had an open pit lane at the end. But again, I think if they had done that, they probably would have ran out of laps to be able to get a green flag.
And then at that point, they would have just thrown the red, and then we would have the same discussion we're having at Indianapolis. I mean, I learned this weekend that people do not get down well with yellow flag finishes because, nobody was happy at the end of that NASCAR race. Though, to be fair, I think it was more because of the fact that Denny Hamlin punted Kyle Larson off. Welcome to the resistance again. Denny Hamlin? Sure, whatever.
Give me the deliberate villain over the accidental villain.
All I know
Meteor.
is if there is one guarantee in motorsport, it is not Alex Palou winning this title. It is not Red Bull winning the F1 titles this year. I know Denny Hamlin is not winning the NASCAR title after the way he's been racing.
Someone is dumping him in the championship for, if he makes it that far.
And all of them are Kyle Larson.
Without question. Before we get out of here as well, because it's going to be a bit of a shorter episode on this one.
Yeah.
TV ratings did really well. Over 1 million viewers on both races. 30% increase on last year for Iowa.
Good.
Great news. Great to see.
Oval viewership.
Yeah, 1.14 million for race 1. Over 1 million again on race 2. Like I said, 30% up on last year. And there are rumors abound that we are not going to have 2 Indy road course races next year, and that the latter one, the Gallagher Grand Prix in August, will be replaced with a return to the Milwaukee Mile.
I love
Is it time for the series to explore rebalancing the calendar with more ovals?
I wrote a piece about it, race fans. I think you get a healthy selection of short ovals and you get enough people to come to them so that they continue to hold these short oval races. That's the way forward. Like, we don't need to be doing like high bank super speedway races, like maybe at Homestead, Miami, but don't go crazy with it. We don't need to go to Charlotte. We don't need to go to Las Vegas. None of that stuff. But Milwaukee is perfect. It's got tons and tons of open wheel history. And like, if it comes back, that would be amazing, considering after IndyCar left the last time, Milwaukee was thinking of tearing the place down.
Yes, I did hear about this.
Yeah,
Oh, hang on. I've just got a breaking news tweet sent my way thanks to Zoe. According to Nathan Brown from the Indianapolis Star, IndyCar and Music City officials are set to formally announce plans next Thursday to make the Nashville Street Race the 2024 season finale.
The Sickos Committee is in business tonight.
Including a revamped course that will use several blocks of historic Lower Broadway.
Ah, I like that.
So we are potentially getting Milwaukee back next year, and we're also potentially getting. It looks like we're going to get Nashville as the season finale. Oh boy!
Well, okay. Don't want to.
This is the part where you defend Nashville, isn't it, RJ?
I want to table Nashville for later because, like, adding Milwaukee would be good for the calendar because, again, it's a historic venue. It has worked before. It'd be a great comeback. I mean, Iowa Speedway made a comeback. We weren't sure after IndyCar left Iowa that place would ever come back, and now, thanks to Hy-Vee Supermarkets dumping in like the entire gross domestic product of the state of Iowa into that facility, it is a destination event. Now, I'd argue maybe they could have the races at night, but they seem to be having success with what they're doing, so I'm not willing. But yeah, people like these oval races. People want to watch them. Texas was good. We don't need to say anything more about the Indianapolis 500. It always constantly delivers.
Yeah, I was going to say Texas, for me, was quite possibly top 3 in my all-time favorite IndyCar races I've watched since I became a fan in 2014. That was an incredible spectacle. And honestly, all of my favorite 3 were all oval races. Texas in 2016, where James Hinchcliffe nearly won. Graham Rahal's fist pump celebration, and then the other one was Fontana in 2015, which was absolutely batshit insane, and to the point where I was like, that was great, let's never do that again.
Well, funny thing happened along the way. The people that run Auto Club Speedway were just like, we'll make sure that this never happens again anywhere, which is a damn crying shame.
It is. I mean, my stance on this is pretty straightforward. The ovals are the bangers. Those are the like the road and street courses for IndyCar this year have been good to great. So there've been a couple of drab ones in there, but generally they've been pretty good. I don't think it's a coincidence that the best race in IndyCar this year was an oval race, and the most dramatic was the 500. Even if I don't necessarily agree with it being a one-lap finish in the end, I still think it was incredible as a spectacle to have Ericsson and Newgarden almost turn into the fucking pit lane trying to defend that win. And it was a marquee moment for a series that needed one.
Is this the moment the pain ends?
Etc. So I am all for Milwaukee coming back. I loved Milwaukee when in my early days of being an IndyCar fan around that mid 2010 sort of period.
Yeah, I think like the last time they ran, like Sebastian Bourdais with a car that didn't 100% pass inspection, beat everybody's brakes off.
That was fun. That was very fun to watch, and it's one of those. Okay, if he wins like that, you just gotta hand it to him. Just incredible spectacles. I know the days of Fontana are long gone. I wasn't the biggest fan of Phoenix when it came off the calendar, so I was kind of like, fair enough.
They dropped the ball with Phoenix.
Agreed.
Pocono had its. Remember, Pocono was not dropped because of Atsons. Pocono was dropped because eventually people stopped coming to the race.
Yes. And look, do not get me wrong. The sicko in me admits Pocono did have, again, incredible drama and spectacle as an IndyCar race. It also made me uncomfortable to watch at times for how many accidents that place was having. And now, I don't know where you draw the line in terms of, it's just a matter of it being an oval race in IndyCar, and
I don't want to sound like a boomer, but I always felt like with Pocono being like relatively flat with long runoffs, like it's not that much more problematic of a layout than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway itself, but it's not as important as the Indianapolis 500 itself.
Yes,
that's
fair.
You raise the walls up, you get catch fencing that will not rust over the cold and terrible Pennsylvania winters. You got something there. For a track that was barely hanging on after IndyCar left, I don't see it coming back anytime soon, but I like Milwaukee coming back. I like that idea. If you get like a doubleheader at Gateway as a fallback option, that's fine too.
Yeah, I'm here for all of this. Cam, how do you feel about the ovals in general? And I'm glad you've come back from the Nashville news, and he has a death stare on his face right now, which isn't a good sign. Talk to me, Cam. How many fingers am I holding up?
Cam, they're going to try a different layout.
I don't care. I don't care.
He's written off Nashville entirely.
Sink it into the earth and try again.
I know they overpaid ovals for Ryan O'Reilly, but come on.
I would really like some more ovals. Short ovals, 1.5 miles. Shit. See what you can do about super speedways. Not that there's a whole lot of them left anymore. Thanks, Fontana. Thanks, Chicken Wire at Pocono. And, Pocono has no money and people don't show up.
Bigger problem.
Michigan.
But one of my favorite things for the longest time about IndyCar is the variety of disciplines. And different teams excelling at different things, different drivers excelling at different things. And I want to see some more of that variety because, not going to lie to you, Texas was pretty good this year. I still would start my improvements of Texas Motor Speedway with a bulldozer.
We kind of got away with that one a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah, it's like it is the exception that proves the rule this year's Texas race. But I'd be super happy to see the Milwaukee Mile back because, of course, it is one of the oldest racetracks on this planet in any sense.
They were running horses back there in the 19th century, like actual honest-to-God horses.
Matter of fact, it was the oldest racetrack, purpose-built racetrack on this earth. There is enormous heritage and history there. Instead of glory to corn, glory to Harley
Beer?
Davidson and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Nice.
I don't know.
He's too busy trying to play Saudi Arabian football.
But did you hear Kylian Mbappe is turning down that deal?
Yeah, $1 billion per year. Dear God,
Yeah.
more than $1 billion.
$1 billion to play football in Saudi Arabia for just 1 year before he goes to his dream club of Real Madrid.
Dear God,
the franchise that people don't even know in soccer knows Real Madrid. Like, jeez.
Yeah, it's just a shame that most of the ovals in this U.S. are under control by NASCAR, who don't want anyone impinging on their territory.
Yeah.
Fontana is done. It's gone.
Fontana's done. I mean, Michigan would be awesome, but I also feel like Chevrolet and Penske would just rather throw their money into the Renaissance Center circuit, which, make of that what you will.
I wish we could have both, because I do like Michigan as a racetrack when NASCAR doesn't try the quote high drag aero kit. When I die, that might be my pick for the worst race that I've ever watched, and it was back in 2015. But yeah, Nashville is no, Chief, no thanks. I am the repeating nose from the other Office meme. Oh God, please no.
Quick thoughts on Nashville before we get out of here. Season finale now instead, then.
No.
Besides Cam,
just show me what the new track's going to look like. It is going to be different. Remember, they got to build around the city of Nashville deciding, no, we need a newer, bigger football stadium with blackjack and hookers, but not hookers because this is the God-fearing state of Tennessee.
God-fearing. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a fan of Nashville because I'm not. I'm prepared to give it a second chance with a better layout, because I think the biggest issue I have with Nashville is its crummy layout and the fact that it encourages bad habits and sloppy driving, which the IndyCar series has no problem already embraced enough as it is. So I'm prepared to see what the new layout looks like and prepared to give it a chance. But I have always had the belief of what was wrong with Laguna Seca, first and foremost, and two, why did we stop racing at COTA again? It's
because Laguna Seca's not in a destination city, and COTA didn't draw many people the first time. But Nashville, that's a destination city. Destination city.
I'm getting out of here. IndyCar is
too.
back.
Bye.
IndyCar is back in 2 weeks' time it's Nashville again. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that
It
ironic?
always circles back to this goddamn track.
Yes.
What was so wrong with Nashville Speedway?
Apparently,
because it's not really in Nashville. It's way out in the boonies, somewhere in the Nashville metropolitan area.
Then call it something else and go there. That way there's one more oval and one last place in Nashville.
The only
honestly, Fairgrounds. Fairgrounds Speedway. They've been wanting to revamp it.
I was like, the only thing missing with Cam at this point is him in a tent eating refried beans and saying booming real estate market 10 times like it's a Slap Shoes video. That would be the only way to complete the look here.
Yeah, except I fucking hate refried beans.
Well,
you and me both, brother.
Get your fill. Like I said, IndyCar is back in 2 weeks' time for Nashville again, because we loved it so much the first two times. Can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. We got Formula One, as mentioned, in Belgium this weekend, sprint weekend. We've also got the Formula E season finale in London. We didn't do an episode in Rome because we just thought it was a bit too dull, quite frankly, and we'd spend 20 minutes padding time over Mitch Evans being a colossal idiot again.
So I've given the news. I've taken the news about Nashville and put it in another server, and someone has stated, I will personally move Nashville to the state of Maryland so I can quote the entirety of the Big Bill Hells video.
Fuck you, Baltimore, etc. But yeah, when we're talking about Formula E season finale in London next week, Jake Dennis with, I think it's a 24-point lead going into the finale over Nick Cassidy. It's looking like it's Dennis's to lose, given the lay of the land at the moment.
Please. God, please just let him win.
Like, give Jake Dennis something. He is the Denzel Washington of Formula E at this point. He's from round the way. He's leaving with something. So let's see how that goes. Nick Cassidy, Mitch Evans with still an outside chance of winning the title, but probably not going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. We'll talk a little bit about that in the season finale of Formula E this weekend. So 2 episodes next week. But until then, I've been Dre Harrison. He's been RJ O'Connell and RJ O'Connell. And until next time, thank you very much for listening. Sayonara.
Later, y'all.
You can't see it, but RJ's basically become the Richard Hammond drinking the bloody awful gif. It's great.
No, I posted that for a reason.